Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Bongocast, the community talk, where we have a really special episode ready for you guys. Now, I always value my guests here. It's great to have people from the community on board here, bringing great topics that we can discuss. And the format has been really well received by you guys, so that's really nice to see. But today is a very special episode also for me in many ways, because it's not every day that you get the founder and CEO of a die-cast model producing company as a guest, but that is exactly what is happening in this episode. Steven, the founder and CEO of Aether Model, has made the way all the way from China to my humble headquarters. So we could take a deep dive into many topics around die-cast models, of course, especially going into Aether Model, what the future plans are, where they are right now. So really a very special episode that I can present to you today. But in order to respect his privacy, I have made the exception of making this into an audio podcast. Usually this format is a video podcast, so that you can watch, listen, or both to these podcast episodes, but in this occasion we switched off the camera and made a pure audio recording. Still, I do believe it is a very interesting listen that you can have. There are some exclusive reveals about future products from Aether Model that you will hear here for the very first time, so it is really worth listening to the entire podcast. I can only recommend you that if you are interested in hearing what is coming in the future. Alright, so we are in the BongoPlanes headquarters. I have a very special guest, a VIP, well and truly a VIP, founder, young entrepreneur from China, Steven, the founder of Aether Model. If you live under a rock, you may not have heard about them, but they are a brand new company starting in scale 500. Who would have thought? But there is still someone out there who believes in the scale and wants to rescue us from the fangs of Herpewings.
Yes.
Steven, for those of us who haven't spent a lot of time with you yet, maybe we can give our listeners just a brief introduction to yourself. I know that you are actually a passionate collector yourself.
Yeah. So, hi everyone, my name is Steven Singh, and I've been an aviation enthusiast for as long as I can remember. And especially when it comes to commercial aircrafts. And my collecting journey started with Darwin airplanes, those kind of toys, because at that time, whenever I received a die-cast model, it usually survives only about 2 minutes before reaching its unfortunate fate. Yeah. And by chance, I later bought my very first scale 1 to 500 model from Cathay Pacific, actually, from their onboard sales. And that moment really set me on the path of collecting in this scale. So on top of that, I have a bit of a perfectionist streak. So if I start collecting something, I want to collect it, the entire stuff. I want to collect it like thoroughly, and since scale 1 to 500 models offer fewer variations, actually, so it becomes easier to build a more complete collection. And fast forward today, I'm stuck faithfully in this scale, and right now I have around 1,400 models, but I do have around 10 scale 1 to 400 models given by my friends.
We don't blame you.
Yeah, since they cannot differentiate the two scales.
Because I mean, as I understood from talking to you earlier today, it's like scale 400 is really dominant in China.
Yeah.
And the scale 500 business or community is really tiny in mainland China. Hong Kong is different, but mainland China is really different. So it was a Cathay Pacific in-flight model that got you into scale 500. Very good. So we have Cathay to thank, really. Thank
you, Cathay Pacific.
Very, very good. Let's get into Aether Model, your company that you've started. So over the years, I've talked with various brands,
Yes.
but none of them wanted to go into Scale 500 and often questioned the profitability of going into the scale. I've never really understood it, but that was their arguing, and I mean, who am I to argue with them? So something I have always disagreed with, but seeing an untapped potential in the scale. So what did you see that seemingly so many others in the industry didn't see?
Well, basically, if we compare realistically, our production volume and profitability are indeed lower than in the scale 1 to 400. And reaching the production scale of 1 to 400 is very challenging for us. And most companies prefer to invest their resources in the more promising but highly competitive scale 1 to 400. However, this doesn't mean that scale 1 to 500 has no advantages. And due to well-known reasons, many highly demanded airline models cannot be produced in scale 1 to 500, while the production volume for each model may not reach the staggering numbers of 1 to 400, there is a significant gap in the availability of models and airlines in the scale 1 to 500 market, so which represents a untapped opportunity.
But how come that you see that but so many other brands don't? Is that because you collect scale 500 and therefore maybe closer to the scale?
This is a main reason, because most Chinese brands will focus more in a scale that they are known.
And on the domestic market that they know better, which is scale 400 predominantly. Interesting. So again, we have to thank Cathay Pacific. It's not sponsored, but we have to thank them because ultimately they are responsible.
Yeah.
Starting a model airplane business isn't something done just like that. I can reveal that I have in the past have had thoughts about doing something similar, but always found it ultimately, at least for someone based in Europe, to be a too big task for a single person to really take on. Also because, I mean, while I do have, I think, a good network here in Europe and with retailers and many people in the industry, I don't have a network with the production companies and that part of the business, which is mainly placed in China. But was there any initial event or thought or experience that triggered you to take the step of actually starting a company?
Well, I would say it was really my passion for scale 1 to 500 that pushed me to take this step. I couldn't stand watching my favorite scale slowly die or somehow decline in various reasons, nor seeing so many collectors turn into other scales. And I was even less willing to accept people saying that scale 1 to 500 is dying. So, of course, producing models is never an easy task. It requires resource, networks, and sometimes even a bit of luck. But fortunately, I happened to have the right connections and resource at the time, which gave me the opportunity to establish my own brand and start producing these models. So I think it's luck.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously it is a business. You have goals you want to achieve with that, but it is also, at least from talking with you today, also before the podcast, I really get the feeling that this is, apart from the business, really a passion project for you.
Yeah.
That's nice to see. Without going into specific numbers, but how have the initial sales of your first batch gone so far? Are you happy with the market entry?
I'm very happy. Out of the 3 models in our first batch, the 350 units production of Norse and EVA have already sold out. And the 500 unit production of Korean is also running low in stock. I'm personally quite surprised by the sales speed, especially considering that we are a new brand and we are brand new in the market. And it's really encouraging to see so many people placing pre-order and trusting our models. Yeah.
So the reception also from retailers, even before actually being able to see a product, has been quite good.
Really good.
And we should maybe mention, I mean, you say that the EVA and the Norse have sold out.
Yeah.
The Korean, there are still some models available.
Yeah.
But Norse and Eva Air were produced in quantities of 350 units,
Yes.
where the Korean Air has 500 units
Yes.
produced. So that explains why there's still some left there. Let's dive a little bit into. I mean, I got the very first Aether models today here. Really happy. Look forward to reviewing them. By the time this podcast is going out, I do believe the very first review will already be online. If not, then it's imminent to go online. So do keep an eye out for that here on the channel, of course. But let's look into the future, because there's much more to come, of course. So you have announced the first batch, and that's just about to hit shelves at retailers. Yes. You have announced your second batch, which I know you're already working on future releases, but so far we have only seen the 787-9, and with the second batch, the A330-300 also makes its entry when it comes to the molds that you utilize. Now, it's not a secret that you're working on other molds, although maybe not known yet which ones, but you are working on new molds. That I think we can safely say. Perhaps you can let us know a little more on that front. So you inherited some molds from Sky 500. You are not Sky 500. You are not the predecessor of maybe spiritual predecessor, but you are a new entity, a new company. You're not linked to Sky 500. Sky 500 does not exist anymore, but you inherited the few working molds that Sky 500 used to utilize. That's the 787, that's the A330, and perhaps one or two more aircraft types.
So not every mold was in usable conditions. Some were damaged or destroyed. And so basically we are not Sky 500. We just have a few Sky 500 molds, and so basically, also currently right now, many Sky 500 molds are being improved and optimized by us to deliver better products to the collectors. And currently, I can't disclose exactly which Sky 500 molds we have, but I can share that we are preparing to bring the Sky 500 A340 molds back into production. And as for new molds, I can say that next year we will introduce 8 new aircraft molds to the market.
So those are completely new molds, not inherited,
molds.
Completely new developed. Can you talk about wide body, narrow body? Because I know many people are very curious.
Well, both narrow bodies and wide bodies. Well, though I'm not able to reveal which 8 at this moment.
Fair enough.
But I can tell you they are very exciting.
Oh, I mean, just the news that there's both wide body developments and narrow body developments, I think will excite a lot of people. Because it just opens up so many possibilities. So I can already see the listeners here starting to write their wish lists on all the different aircraft types and airlines they would like to see featured. Now, needless to say that you have many exciting new models in development and will feature airlines that surely will be exciting many collectors. But how do you so far find the process of deciding on what models to make and what not to make? Can you perhaps give us a little bit more insight into your process and thoughts on the decision making?
Well, I think Christoph can probably answer this question for me, basically. Well, generally, I draw inspirations from many resources, like the comments on some competitors' live streams and the Wings 900 discussion forums, or even my own direct message and comments, And from these places, I filter out suitable topics and idea, and then I bring these ideas to discuss with my Aether ambassadors and listen to their feedbacks and thoughts. When deciding which model to produce, I personally prefer to focus on aircrafts that Herpa has not produced before, or models that Herpa is unable to manufacture. And these models also need to meet certain criteria, such as having operations on European routes and being suitable for display in most collectors' airport setups.
Yeah, so that's having a realistic look at what models you make would also fit collectors in most possible places.
Yeah, because with this approach ensures that the models meet the needs of collectors while also helping us to ensure their sales performance.
Yeah. And I know that, obviously people have lots of wishes. I have lots of wishes, but we have to realize that maybe not everything is realistic, at least not right at the beginning. I mean, you are a brand new company. You have a lot of investment to do right from the get-go before you can have any revenue stream coming back to reinvest, basically. So some of the more exotic aircraft types and some of the more exotic airlines are just unrealistic for a brand new company. I mean, there's many of those would be unrealistic for an established brand like Herpa, not because they wouldn't be able to get the licenses, but just because the feasibility, the economics behind it is not there, and especially not for a new company. It doesn't mean that it would never be possible in the future, but I think that's fair enough. You need to look at the bottom line and see, okay, I'm at the beginning of this journey, which is hopefully going to be a very long one. But you can't do everything at once, and you need to take one step at a time. And I have always said, when people ask me, if a new company enters the market, what should they do? And I've always said, bread and butter models. Yeah. You have to start with bread and butter models. Those models that you just know will be an instant sellout, because you have so much investment to do. So you need to make sure that every shot is right on target.
Yes.
So I think of course, we collectors are always passionate and we always have our wishes. And I think it's also good, of course, that these wishes are expressed, because it gives you inspiration, it gives you a picture of what the market can be. But we also sometimes, and I'm guilty of that as well, need to be realistic and sometimes have a little bit patience.
It will come in the future. We just need some patience to wait.
I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, you've told me before that you, for example, sometimes also look at the comments of when I've made news videos, see the responses. But you also mentioned that you have looked maybe once in a while at the comment sections or chats of live streams from Herpa Wings to see what people bring in of ideas. So how much is Herpa inspiration for you, and how much do you want to set yourself apart from Herpa? I mean, take the model boxes, for example, of your new first batch. Your boxes are an example of this, where you clearly work with a much better design, but are keeping commonality in terms of box size. So what is your look and your view on Herpa versus Aether, together with Aether? Where are we here?
So Herpa has been a huge source of inspiration and guidance for me. In many ways, Herpa shaped who I am today. I have a deep appreciation for Herpa and truly believe that without it, Scale 1 to 500 wouldn't exist as it does now. Not only in terms of the challenges the community is facing today, but also the achievement, the glorious days back then. Some of Herpa's design and touches captured the very essence and joy of Scale 1 to 500, like the image on the side of the box. While taking inspirations from Herpa, I'm also adding some of my personal thoughts and preferences and really retaining the essence while refining what doesn't work. That's how I work with.
Very nice. Things. I mean, I'm right now sitting with these three first Aether models and looking at the boxes. They look really nice. I must say it's nice. We have like this flap where you then have an image on the inner side. You have a bit of descriptions. Exactly. You have a cutout, so you can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, as I used to say in my reviews. But then on the back side again, you have a bunch of information. So it's a nice enclosed box. It protects my model. It doesn't get dust. It doesn't get any UV rays, so sunlight that could yellow any parts if that was impossible. But yeah, this way it's protected. So that's really cool. We have the lovely base plate for each model, which is actually individually designed. So the apron, based on So when you have, for example, I right now hold the Norse 787, so the apron that is printed on the base plate is from Oslo Airport.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So you have like, the
main
connection.
hub for the airline.
There are two things, I mean, apart from the overall design, which I have praised many times, because I really like it. It's basically just what I've been waiting for a long time with Herpa, but there are two things I particularly like about the box. I mean, one thing is just from the practical point of view that it is the same size as my Herpa boxes. So I can store it with my Herpa models. I know this now sounds like a sales pitch, but it's not. This is just me as a collector speaking from the heart. Because I know that I'm not the only one that, for example, has also Sky 500 models. And it's annoying to have these boxes because they're bigger than the Herpa boxes. So you can't really put them neatly next to each
with
other.
Different sizes for the A330s and 777, like all sorts of aircraft type, different size of box.
Exactly. So here we have the same size for the boxes as with Herpa, so that's nice. And then it's such a tiny little feature, and it's almost nonsensical, but it's actually genius.
Yeah.
And that's on the box. You have the description of what batch the model was made in. I mean, you actually have like 3 letters. That's the code for the airline.
Yes.
Then you have the first digit, that's a 1, but then the interesting digits come after that. So then in this case, you have a 25, that's the production year. Then 1, that's for a regular release. You told me 2 would be if it's a
special release, for example, for aviation fairs and something like that.
Yeah, and then we have 2 more digits. In this case, it's 03, because it's a 3rd model out of the first batch, which has 3 models. So again, in a sense, it's who needs that? But it's so cool because, I mean, for my reviews, I often look at models and I mean, I try to review new releases. That's fairly easy because, okay, it's just been released. But I do also, whenever there's time, when there's maybe a gap between releases, look at older models. And then you always have to dig through a lot of resources, figuring out, okay, when was it actually made? And there are fairly good resources on the internet. But, for example, I like to use the MADB database. But there it, for example, specifies, this model was made in December 2024. But it has a catch because that's the date when it was supposed to be released, and which we know Herpa models are often delayed. So you actually don't really know when it was actually really released. So given that you will never ever have any delays,
hopefully,
on the box, I can now see to which batch this belongs. Again, it's like it's this little side thing. It's not really important, but it's just neat to have.
Yeah, it adds a lot.
So, those are my 2 favorite parts of the boxes. The models themselves are really, really nice. As I said, I will review all 3 of them, and by the time this podcast is going out, there should be at least 1, maybe even more already online.
Stay tuned for the review videos, please.
Absolutely. I will, of course, go completely impartially into it. I will, as a collector, I will look at the models, but I have already taken a quick look at them and compared them actually already with a Sky 500 787, which basically shares the same heritage, the same mold, and then a recent Herpa Wings release. And yeah, there are many nice things. There's one thing which I think Herpa model does better. That's the ram air intakes. Yeah. That's a physical detailing. But if that's the only thing that is done better by Herpa Wings, then I think you are in a very good track. So yeah. Now, you have done a trip across Europe. You're visiting me here. It's pretty much the last step on your journey. So I'm very honored that you made the way all the way to Denmark to visit me in my humble headquarters. But yeah, you've done a trip across Europe to meet with many of your retailers and to further deepen your network here. So how has the trip gone, and what has the reception been from retailers, from people you've met around, now that you could actually present an actual finished model to show?
So the response so far has been very positive, and I feel that things are progressing smoothly. I'm very glad to have meet my retailers in person and to have the opportunity to work with them. almost every retailer has increased their order quantities and also added pre-orders for our second batch of models. Here, I would also like to give a shout out to each of my retailers and let everyone know which retailers are selling Aether Model products.
Sure.
They are Aviation Center Berlin, Jumbolino Model, Wings World, West Main Toy, Scale Model Store, Ars Technica, World of Wings, Toymax Co., Collectors Aircraft Models, Modelution, Crosswings, Aviation Retail Direct, Airmall Fluxing Model, Aviation Megastore, and Aero Terminal. 15 stores in total.
I mean, not bad, not a bad lineup. If you ask me, I mean, sure, there will always be some retailers that we maybe missed, but I think for the start, an impressive lineup. And for sure, I think a network where you really reach quite many collectors out there.
Yeah, majority.
Because, I mean, they all have online stores, so that already helps, reaching way more than just a local catchment area. And I mean, personally, as a collector, I'm also really happy to see that you managed to reach out to so many, because like the worst scenario that I could picture when we started talking earlier this year was like, okay, he will have one retailer.
All of that.
And I mean, it wouldn't be good for you, because you would only have like one retailer then to do business with. It wouldn't be good for collectors, because we would then be completely dependent on this one retailer and whatever price level they set. Because I mean, you sell the models to retailers for a price, then you have a recommended retail price. That's a normal business way that you do it. So the company that makes the product sells the product to a retail network and says, we recommend that you sell the model for this price. But it's a recommendation, which means that retailers can, of course, choose to go below, they can go above, depending on their needs as well, because they, of course, need their margins and need to make sure that it works for them. But of course, with more retailers in your network, it for collectors means we have better choice to look out there and see which retailer works best for us. But we can also compare prices, because they do differ a little bit here and there, which is fair enough. There are different circumstances, and I think retailers will always try to give the best possible price from their point of view. But of course, as a collector, we might have a different point of view. And so now we have just more options out there. So as I say, from the standpoint of a collector, I'm really, really happy that you managed to get as many retailers as you have done so far. And who knows, maybe someone listens here and says, I'm a retailer, I have an online store, I would like to sell Aether models because they're really good. Then they can, of course, reach out to you.
Do contact me if you are interested in selling our future batches.
The best way to reach out to you is just by Instagram.
Yeah, by Instagram.
Well, since we are talking community in a sense, my experience with Herpa over the years has been that of a typical small, mid-sized German company, so stuck in their ways and very slow to react to changing market. Just take the way Herpa communicates with the customers and community. They almost never react to any feedback that doesn't praise them beyond belief. I don't mean like hate comments, but constructive criticism. They just don't react to that, really. They do occasionally answer direct messages, but then the specific information they give is not circulated, because it's just to this one specific person that wrote to them. The perhaps most informative communication they do, apart from the occasional Instagram live stream, is the email newsletter. I question how many in the community really see that, at least from the younger community. And now you're fairly young. I think that's fair to say. You have just started your own business and have already delivered some models that the community has been asking for a very long time. How have you experienced the reception so far, and what are your plans on keeping the community engaged and up to date on your plans?
Well, people in the community are incredibly passionate, and that makes their feedback super valuable, not just the praise, but also the constructive criticism that help us shape what we do next. And so far, I found the reception is be really encouraging and delivering models that people have been asking for over many years has built a lot of trust. And I feel really responsible to keep that trust going. And one of the way I'm approaching this is by prioritizing transparency, sharing updates on the production like I did before. And
So, for example, showing images of the models in the production.
yeah.
So step by step.
Yeah, step by step. Letting our customers know what stage we are in right now, and design decisions, and even occasionally setbacks. And yeah, I try to make the community feel like they are part of the process rather than passive consumers. Basically, to keep people engaged and informed, I plan to leverage multiple channels. And for example, direct social media engagement is key, but I also want to maintain an informative newsletter for those who prefer a more structured update. And maybe live Q&A sessions later, or behind the scenes content, or other ways to bridge the gap between community and the work we are doing. So ultimately, the goal is to create a two-way conversation where like feedbacks is visible and acknowledged, and whenever possible, act upon.
Very good. Now, maybe just as a little additional question here, because this is all, and I mean, that's good. It's all online, obviously. Makes sense. But we have to acknowledge that the community is not just online. There is also a big offline community, which is harder to reach, obviously. One thing that I have encouraged, for example, Herpa to do, and they luckily also do, and that I like to do, is go to collection fairs. Because it's a really good way to, I mean, of course you meet many people from the online community, but it's also a good way to connect with people who maybe are not online. Do you think that either model in one way or the other in the future could be found at collectors' fairs?
Certainly, we will definitely attend these fairs. It is just a matter of time. Yeah,
you can't do everything at once, obviously, but because, as I say, I think that it's just a good way to bridge the gap, because this is an online bubble, obviously. I mean, and it's nice to be in this. It's a really nice community. People are generally quite friendly and stuff. But I mean, I can just see from myself, like I engage on YouTube, I engage on Instagram, I go to collectors fairs. I know that there's the forum like Wings 900, which I think is at least the most known forum within the scale communities. But for example, for me, it's just like a black hole. I cannot navigate this page. I have tried. I cannot find anything. I cannot find my way around that website. So it is very, sometimes I do, mostly because people are kind enough to show me some specific page or something. I would never find it myself. So I'm kind of detached from that. As much as I would like to maybe be more active on, for example, a forum like Wings 900, I'm just not capable of it. But it means I'm in certain ways detached from that part of the scale community. So trying to reach out more, I think, is always nice. So hearing that you have that in mind, I think it's just encouraging, because it just again shows like the engagement with the community, or communities, we should perhaps say. I don't want to, I'm not trying to bash on Herpa when I say that they're old and stiff, but it is just a reality. And they have moved. We also have to acknowledge that they have started doing Instagram live streams, which is a massive improvement for them. There's still many things they could do better with that, but it's a step. It's a step in the right direction. They do send a newsletter, which is great for those who actually consume that medium, which isn't everyone, but you will never reach everyone. That's fair enough. But there's so much, still, I think, so much untapped potential in the way they can communicate with people. So having maybe from you a younger approach to how to deal with customers, with a community, and taking people along the way on the journey is really encouraging to see. I have many times talked about, for example, when there have been issues in production with Hyperwings. These things can happen. No one, I mean, I'm sure you have already maybe had some small hiccups, and there might one day come with a big hiccup.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. It's human business. We all experience that in life. We have to experience it to learn from this and then
We all make
grow.
mistakes.
Exactly. But the question is, how do we deal with that? And I've always said with Hyperwings that many of the frustrations that are building in the community around Hyper come not from the mistakes, but from the way they deal with them, and that is by just being silent. If they addressed the issues, if they took people along the way, like if a model is delayed by a year, it's not great. But if I'm told, look, guys, we have experienced an issue with this model in production, and we are trying to solve this. This means it will take longer. Then I think most reasonable people would say, yes, it's the model I've been waiting for, and I'm really excited for it. But I'd rather have it being done well than rushed out. So, okay, fair enough. Now I know it will take a bit longer, so I can, manage.
I think the way to deal with these things is telling the truth, listing the reasons, telling collectors why, and how is it going to be solved. Yeah, telling the truth basically solves every problem.
Yes, and taking people along the way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure you you have already alluded to it, that you have been flooded with many model suggestions.
Yeah.
And there are many ways of dealing with community contributions. Now, one model that I haven't tried myself because it's in scale 400, so I haven't really dealt with it, but I find quite interesting is what NG Models does with their loyalty program, where like it's multi-layered. So you have a loyalty program, and within that you can kind of suggest models, and people can vote for it. In that sense, it's a monetized system. You have to pay in order to vote, which I guess has the benefit that if people vote, it's really something they really want. It's not just, so it's kind of quality over quantity suggestions, I guess. Whether, of course, if you don't monetize it, it's maybe more democratic. But just in general, the idea of having like a system set up in the ways people can come with their suggestions and contributions that is more structured than just having an Instagram inbox where people just flood. I mean, it's manageable now, but maybe in the future it might get overwhelming. Are you looking into something that's like the NG model or a similar system, which is perhaps more structured in a way for the community to communicate and contribute?
Well, I think currently implementing such a system would be quite difficult and unrealistic. Well, the system is not bad, but I don't want wishing for a model to turn into a form of consumption, creating a negative cycle, basically, when people pay for models they want. I don't want to do these kinds of business, basically. And moreover, I want to always retain the final veto right over a model. Collectors' voice are certainly important, but I don't want them to overshadow my own decision making because it's my own business and I'm taking the risk.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. So your risk, your reward.
Yeah.
But do you see that whether it is a loyalty program, whether it is a voting system or whatever, but a more structured approach to contributions in the future could be a benefit or necessary? Or do you think that as is at the moment, you'll be able to manage for the foreseeable future?
Well, for example, voting can happen, but it cannot be fully democratic. For example, when giving suggestions, we might receive 100 emails or votes suggesting a Braniff model.
Yeah.
And should I produce a Braniff model?
Well, what's wrong with a Braniff model? We've never had them.
Well, yeah. Basically, like, I'm just afraid that there might be some wrong decision. And basically, in the end, I'm the person, like, taking the risk. And, yeah, I need to manage the risk that I'm taking.
For sure.
We can have, for example, like, people voting for 5 models. They're all very good topics, and we can produce the top 3 or top 2 with the highest votes, and other models that didn't make it can come in future batches. These kinds of votes are stuff that we can do for the future, but you can see that fully democratic is not going to happen.
No, of course. I mean, it's within reason,
Yeah.
obviously. No, but it's interesting to hear your thoughts on this process, and obviously not deciding what system exactly it is, but taking inspiration also from companies, how they do it.
I think like the system will gradually form by itself.
Stephen, I think it is time to take a few questions in from the community, because
Sure.
a few days before we record this podcast, I had an Instagram story where I asked my lovely community to come with their comments and questions if they had the opportunity, like I am right now very privileged to be in the situation where I sit right in front of the founder of Aether Model. So let me just dive right into the questions here so that I can ask you what the people want to know. Some topics, obviously, that you guys came up with in the Instagram stories, we have kind of already touched upon, because I mean I had already prepared some topics I wanted to talk with you, and many of them overlap with questions that came in. But I think there are a few questions that I hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
So let me give you those. So obviously we had a lot of questions regarding molds and all that. We have talked as much about it as we can. So we will go over that. We have the confirmation that there will be narrow bodies from Aether Model. I think that's the really big takeaway here. And we look forward to see what is coming. Maybe one thing we didn't really talk about was the time frame. Is it? I mean, it's obviously not going to be this year.
Yeah.
But are we talking next year or within the next 5 years? What is your time frame
Next
there?
year.
Next year.
Yeah.
So yeah, for example, the first question that came in from the community was if you consider selling white models, so albino models.
Yes, definitely. But currently, I don't want to waste our precious slots on albino models. We are just still having so many topics and airlines unfulfilled. So basically, that it will come in the future, but not now.
Okay, fair enough. Another good question, I think, is the frequency of model releases. What are you looking into here? I mean, now we are recording in August. The first model should arrive at retailers around September.
Yeah.
Then the second batch, which is coming this year, should be around
5 models.
Yeah, and the time frame, they arrive around December-ish?
November,
December?
December.
Yeah. So what is the frequency of these kind of releases that you foresee? Do you
A batch
envision?
in every 2 months.
Okay, so pretty much what we see when there are no delays with Hyperwings.
Yes. And the amount of models released per batch currently will be 5 per batch, since they're all wide bodies. But starting from the first batch of narrow bodies, it will be 10 models.
All right, so quite the increase.
Yeah.
So yeah, we look forward to that. Let me just find a good question here. We have a lot of questions regarding molds and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. Here, actually, I guess this question also ties into the whole communication topic we had. Will Aether launch a website?
Well, also in the future. Well, we are currently, my thought is to distribute these models all through retailers. So the use for a website basically will be an archive to search up and look up for models we produced in the past. Well, currently we only have 2 batches announced, so I don't think it's very hard to scroll through our Instagram account to see what we announced before. So yeah, this is also something for the future.
Also here a question which I think is quite interesting. Maybe you can answer it, maybe not. We will see. Will they make accessories like gangways, vehicles, etc.? So
Yes.
GSE. Yes.
Yes.
So Aether Model accessories is confirmed.
Confirmed.
So now I, of course, have to right away follow up as the good journalist that I'm here today. What time frame are we talking?
2027, I'll say.
Okay, so within the next couple of years, we might start to see the first accessories.
I'll be focusing on accessories that have not been made before.
Okay.
For example, fighter jets.
Aha.
I think that's something that is missing on most collectors' setups. For example, the F-22 and probably some bombers. For example, the B-2. I think if that can be created, I think that's some very nice accessories.
So really exciting to hear. Fighter jets.
Yeah, since they're made by Raisin, currently we are discussing, so I think I'll consider it more as an accessory, not as a model.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Interesting, because we actually have a community question also going, I guess, in that direction. Will they make aircraft types not seen yet in Scale 500? Falcons, Gulfstream, so like small business jet types?
Yeah, this is also in considerations, but yeah, also like the Herpa set that was like with the private
the
small planes years ago. I'll also consider that as accessories.
That's-
We'll look into 3D printing or resin due to like the condition and
Yeah.
cost for these stuff.
But is it like if I go back to the good old days with Herpa, like they didn't just sell models; they had all their accessories. They basically created like this whole universe. You could buy your
Yes.
airport stuff, you could buy your accessories, everything you needed to have like a really awesome setup. Is that a vision you foresee for either to? I mean, now you've confirmed that you are looking into accessories, but yeah, basically creating this universe basically around your models.
Yeah, definitely. Airports,
Okay.
airport terminal buildings, and tarmacs, and yeah, they are also coming. I have companies working for me to design these diagrams for the models, so I think it will also work well for airport setups. So that's also something for the future.
Very exciting. I think people. Yeah, I think. I'm right now cheering. At least inside, my inside voice is cheering right now. There's like a lot of people applauding. I'm sure many of my listeners are too right now.
Well, Bongo had seen one of my projects. It was
have.
a Frankfurt Airport terminal, and it had lights in it. Yeah, basically.
So we are not talking paper cut here. We are
Yeah.
talking 3D printed
yeah.
plastic, resin,
Yeah.
buildings, replicas of real
Yes.
airports
Yes.
with lighting systems.
Yes, with lighting systems.
And ground foils, or how?
Yes, also with lightings. I'm also looking to create that. As real as it can be, it's basically.
That is some exciting stuff for the future. Apart from the many models that we will see in the near future, and especially, of course, with narrow bodies, I'm really excited about that because it just, as I said earlier in the podcast, it just opens up so many possibilities. And hearing your vision for the future, of course, we have to remind everyone, including myself, not to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not coming tomorrow. It's not coming the day after tomorrow, but it is within the next few years something you are developing
Yes.
and want to work on. And I think fantastic news. And I have always tried to end on fantastic news. So Stephen, thank you so much for taking the time, giving us a deep dive into the future of Aether, what's coming, what you're working on, your thoughts on all these topics. I know I appreciate it a lot. I know my viewers and listeners appreciate it a lot. So
from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking the time, coming all the way to Denmark from China here just to talk with me. I really do appreciate it. And
thank you too for inviting me to the HQ.
All right, so really exciting having Stephen here in the podcast. Also here once again here from the off, so to say. A big thank you to Stephen, who actually made the way all the way from China for this and took the time to talk in the podcast. And I really spent around 1.5 days actually together just talking plane model stuff, and it was really quite enlightening. So also here once again, thank you so much, Stephen, for taking the time to do all that and to share your thoughts with the community and to be so active. I appreciate it, and I know that the people in the community do too. Now, if you are sitting at home now and thinking, I have a topic that I really burn for, that I really would like to talk about here in the podcast, or you just have a suggestion for a topic that could be discussed here in the podcast, then please feel free to reach out to me. You can do so by email or simply by commenting down below. With that, thank you so much for, in this case, mostly listening to the podcast, and hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.